Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Crockett Show in social media history. I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone. Every night, 7 o'clock, Facebook and YouTube. I got my man Damian Thaddeus Jones in the building, and I am the 5-star general. They've been waiting on their savior to say that he's running for governor, and my man stepped to the plate this morning. Beto O'Rourke is running for governor of the state of Texas. But is that enough to stop the Democratic Party from being decimated in 2022? Let's talk about it. Say, man, I want to thank you for taking the time out to come and hang out with me on the War Zone. I got my man Damian Thaddeus Jones in the building with me tonight. And we are going to talk politics. But before we get started, I saw an article that they're going to be discussing Astroworld at Commissioner's Court and how they can do a better job next time, and that way they don't have to stop. You always want to discuss after the fact. You know exactly what happened. But also, I feel that these people are snakes to a certain degree. You know, Travis invested some money into redoing some parks and making gardens, you know, that whole week before that Astroworld thing happened. And all of a sudden, you don't see no resemblance of what he did. Name not on there anymore. None of that. So I'm trying to figure out what happened. Why did they take his name off of the park that he invested his money in? Well, it's called political cover, y'all. They had to distance themselves from him. And, you know, now all of a sudden, nobody knows who did it. Hold on, let's stop. Them parks are controlled by county commissioners. Those are county parks. The park in question, Sunnyside Park, that is Rodney Ellis's park. So Rodney basically boo-booed in Travis's face. And if I was Travis, I would boo-boo back in their face. I'm going to tell you why. Because you can't keep letting these people do this to you. You feel what I'm saying? They use you when it's good and convenient, and then they leave you hanging when it ain't. I think Damien froze up. He gonna come right back. Let's make sure. But that's what they did to Travis, and I just think that is garbage. Hold on a second. So they took the name off the park. They took his little logo off the park, but that's what they do to you, man. When you get in bed with them snakes, that's normally what happens to you. You see what I'm saying? That's normally what happens to you. I got my man Damian Thaddeus Jones in the building. You look like you're freezing up, my brother. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you froze, but they can hear you.
Okay. Am I froze now?
Yeah, you still froze.
Let me come back. Let me try to fix it. Let me come back. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all bear with him for a second. He's having some technical difficulties. He's going to come right back. This morning, Beto O'Rourke decided he would throw his hat in the ring and run for governor for the state of Texas. A lot of us already knew it was coming. We just didn't know when. But will that be enough to galvanize the people to come out so that Beto does not run in vain, so to speak? Is that enough to stop the Democratic Party from being decimated in 2022? Because I think they're going to lose a lot of seats. I really think that they're going to lose a lot of seats because a lot of their Democratic leadership hasn't done anything. The Democratic Party is in shambles at this moment. It's in shambles. You know, the leadership doesn't know what to do, and everybody wants you to get behind a group of people that don't seem to have a clue what they're doing. So Beto throws his name in the mix this morning, and that just that opened up a whole different avenue now. So the question is are you going to go out and vote for Beto O'Rourke over Greg Abbott? Are you gonna who you gonna vote for? I don't want you to tell me, but I mean, the question now becomes who you're gonna vote for. And please don't vote for anybody, Republican or Democrat, just because that's the party that you like. Parties are not doing anything. It's what it is. But I think that you should research your candidates, and that way you can make a real informed decision about who you're going to support. You can make a real informed decision about who you're going to support. Now I know Michael Cooper's running, Deidre Gibson is running, African American lady. She's running for governor. But the thing is it kind of reminds me of Trump and Biden. Um, a lot of people wanted Trump out. A lot of people want Abbott out. But you know the devil that you got. You just don't know the devil that you're going to get. You feel what I'm saying? Thunder said, thanks to Greg Abbott, I'm able to protect my family without having to pay money to do so. He made it to where I can protect myself and my family and not have to pay money for a license to do it. So I'm going to be honest with you. Some people are going to support Greg Abbott. A lot of people are not going to support Beto. And there are a lot of good reasons why you can support him. But one of the reasons is Beto was, one of those guys that wanted to take your guns. So, play with your Second Amendment rights. So my question now becomes is, what is going to be the reason that you support him or you don't support him? But is it enough that he's running to still drum up enough interest to get people to the polls, not just for him, but to be able to vote in some of these other races? Let's see if we can get Damien back. Okay. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, you still frozen. Your picture frozen. But they can hear you.
Okay, good deal.
All right. We're going to rock with it. I was just discussing Beto O'Rourke and some of the reasons that people are not going to vote for him.
Okay.
And one of those reasons is he wanted to take your guns.
Right.
And that's a big issue in America. Your Second Amendment right entitles you to be able to bear arms.
Right.
And no matter if it's an AK-47 or a 9mm, nobody's taking my gun. That's how I feel. Nobody's gonna, I don't care what law you pass, I'm not giving up mine. So, the question is this is the big question. Mm-hmm. Is Beto O'Rourke enough jumping in this governor's race enough to stop stop the Democratic Party from being decimated, I feel, in the 2022 elections?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, Monroe. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I was just, I saw the news this morning, and I knew it was coming maybe a few days ago, and I just wanted to sit back and just see the reaction from people, kind of gauge the support and gauge the enthusiasm behind it. And I'm seeing some enthusiasm, but I'm not seeing as much enthusiasm as we saw 3 years ago, right? But I think the Texas Tribune, there was an article, and I'll share it later on my page, but there was an article written by the Texas Tribune today about Beto jumping in the race, and it was titled, Beto O'Rourke enters the gubernatorial race, a weaker candidate going into a much harder race. And I thought that was a perfect depiction of what this race looks like. If you take out a lot of factors, and you just look at the facts of this race. Beto is coming, as you mentioned, has made some missteps and some statements and some positions in the past that has weakened his candidacy and his strength in this state. When you talk about the guns, taking away the guns, that weakened his star in the state. When you talk about his position on defunding the police, that weakens the candidate in this state. And listen, when you have a meteoric rise, that 15 minutes burns up really quick, right? And you have to continue to stay relevant in some type of way. And yes, Beto has stayed relevant, particularly in the state. But I think those positions will hurt him in this state. And so here you are going into a tougher race against a two-time incumbent governor who's already raised $66 million. I just, hey, I see the enthusiasm coming into this race, and I know people want different. I know a lot of people are upset with Abbott because of COVID, the mask mandates, because of the freeze. I understand the frustration from a lot of people, but I just don't know that a weakened Beto O'Rourke going into a tougher race can pull this off. It's going to take a lot of magic.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel the same way. I mean, I think that he's a great guy. I met him in person, and we actually walked out of the Capitol one morning about maybe 4 a.m.
Sure.
And we walked to the car and we had a conversation. And I think he's a great guy. I just don't think he's the candidate that's gonna beat Greg Abbott. Maybe there's something else, because Abbott's a straight up rhino, man.
Right.
For those that don't get it with the Republican Party, you got your conservatives and you got your rhinos. Abbott is a straight up rhino. He is who he is. Right. But it's sort of like, it reminds me so much of Trump and Biden that the devil that you got, you just don't know the devil you're gonna get. You don't know the devil that you're gonna get. So I think not only with the missteps with the guns, his stance on voter suppression, is gonna, and I'm gonna tell you something. Voter suppression and CRT is driving people to the polls.
Right.
We saw what happened in Virginia a week and a half ago. You see what I'm saying? And I think that Texas is gonna be Texas, man. And Texas is red, and I don't see it changing.
Well, I think you and I both agree that this state is going to be red for the next 30 years. And anybody that disputes that is working in a world of delusion, right? We got to deal in facts, stats, and data, and that's what the facts and data particularly says. But I want to point this out, though. I mean, it's possible Beto can, he was 2 points away from beating Ted Cruz in 2018, right? Here we are 3 years later. A lot has changed. We've seen him go through a tough loss with Cruz. Then we also saw a not so very good presidential campaign that didn't even make it to Super Tuesday, right? And then we just saw him really putting his best foot forward to help legislative races in 2020, and that did not work out in a great way as well. So there's a little bit just chipping away at his stardom, particularly. But I want to add this piece. What can Beto do differently in now that he didn't do in 2018? What can he say differently? I mean, that will change particularly the result, because listen, Ted Cruz was very beatable. Greg Abbott, I don't know if he's particularly beatable because his as you mentioned, he's a rhino. And there are a lot of rhinos in Texas who are going to support their candidate. So my question to you, particularly, what could he do differently to change and sway voters in a way where he can beat a two-time incumbent governor?
I think his conversation, especially in the rural counties, because we already know that they're going to focus on Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, the big cities.
Right.
Those cities are going to vote the way that they vote. And a lot of people lose races just like Royce West because you don't know how to work the rural counties. Sure. So those rural counties are a lot of days Republican and rhino.
Right.
And I think, I don't know what his conversation can be, what he can say differently. I just think he has more baggage this time than he had when he ran against Cruz, who, like you said, was beatable.
Yeah.
But Greg Abbott's got a war chest, man.
Yeah.
$66 million. Oh man, he coming. You
Right.
know, he's coming, and I want this understood. I'm not an Abbott fan. Let's get that straight. I'm not a Greg Abbott fan. I mean, it's what it is. I have a difference of opinion and some things that he supports and some things that he's done. You know, he might be a great person if you get a chance to sit down and talk to him, but we're just on opposite ends of the spectrum. But I don't know what he can do differently this time. I think his conversation better be strong when he go to them country towns.
Well, let me say this. I will say Beto is really good in rural Texas. That's why he did so well in 2018, because he's very, very good in rural Texas. He's very, very good on the stump. He's very, very good talking with everyday voters, right? That's that. I mean, but let me just go back to this though. I think Beto may have a challenge to overcome this time with black voters. I really do. I think in 2018 he really had black voters pretty much in his hand. But as we've seen, 3 years of nothing getting better for black voters in the state of Texas and across the country, right? We've heard Beto on all sides of the spectrum. I mean, on Monday, he's in the middle. On Tuesday, he's in the far left, right? So we don't know particularly where he stands. And I think black voters may be weary and maybe question his positions when he may be elected and how he stands with standing up for black people. Because the way I'm seeing some of the ads I've seen today is that Republicans are going to call him the next Joe Biden. Right? They're going to say he wants to bring the Green New Deal into Texas. They're going to say that he wants to bring levels of socialism into Texas. And Beto has said some things that make you think that maybe he wants to move toward the far left and toward socialism as well. So I think one of the bigger challenges for him is going to be how can he get back and earn the trust of black voters again? Because here we are, another election cycle. We went through the presidential cycle. Folks voted for Joe Biden. And now Beto is asking for that vote, the cool, woke white guy, right? And we've seen this movie before, right? So who do we trust? Where do we go? And then you and I also know that there are a big chunk of black men now tired of the Democratic Party, and they're going to be matriculating over to the Republican Party. And we're seeing this in states all across this country, so I think that's one of the bigger challenges that I think that he's going to have to overcome in the next several months to a year.
I think one of the biggest challenges that he has is his own party. His own party is in disarray right now. Their leadership, to me, doesn't have a clue what they're doing. And I think, and this is just my opinion, I think that his party's using him. I think that they're using him just to drive people to the polls for the other races, and they don't have the faith in him that they say that they have. So I think, they don't mind him being in the race, but I don't think the Democratic Party even feels he can win, just drive the people to the polls for the other races. What's your opinion?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna say this. Here's what I think, and here's what I think he should have done. I think he dug his heels in so deep over the last several years where he had to run this time around. Just because of his forward-facing movement, the way that people trust in him, XYZ. And it was like, if he doesn't do it, then who's going to do it, right? But I thought he should have just sat out. Because as you just mentioned, the state Texas Democratic Party at the state level continue to be in disarray, right? And I know there's new leadership. Jamar Brown and another young lady are now at the helm, and I think once they find their footing, they're going to do a better job than the previous leadership. I think the previous leadership, Cliff Walker, was awful, right? And so I think there was a needed change, but he should have just sat out, right, and allowed the party to kind of get themselves together, right, for a moment. Because if he loses this third time, does he have a future in statewide politics going forward? I don't think so, right? So I thought he should have just sat out, maybe written a book, really kind of let some of those woes go away, some of those positions kind of fade away, and then pop up at a better time, maybe go against Cruz again. But I think the party has some positioning to do, has to do a better job in terms of messaging. I mean, you and I know the Republican Party has always been great about messaging. Look how they use the CRT messages and won a race in Virginia and almost in New Jersey, right? And I think that CRT messaging is going to creep back down here to Texas and really, really impact our races next year. So yeah, I'm with you. I think the party needs to make some adjustments, and I won't say that they're using him, right? I think he wins in terms of national stardom. I think the party wins by way of fundraising as well. But I just think if he takes a third L in a row, I think it's time for Beto to, just maybe just kind of chill out for a little bit.
Yeah, I think you get to a point where you run too much.
Mm-hmm.
You can run too many times, and then people are not going to take you serious, and they're just going to think you're just trying to get in where you feel you fit in.
Right.
Like I say, as a person, I think he's a great guy. I had that personal conversation with him, and the night that we were in there, we were on opposite sides of voter suppression.
Yeah.
He was in favor of voter. He felt that it was voter suppression, and I felt that it was voter integrity.
Mm-hmm.
But like two men should, as we were walking out of the Capitol, we had our discussion and we moved on from that. We just agreed to disagree on this subject.
Right.
But I think that the CRT, the transgender bill, all of these things that he supported is going to come back and haunt him, because I just feel that the conservative side of the Republican Party, they're not playing no games right now, man.
Mm-hmm.
They getting folks out these seats, and I just think that the state of Texas, and especially Harris County is gonna be a shock to some people, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel some top-notch sitting incumbents are gonna lose their seats. I just think that they're gonna lose their seats, because it's a lot of things that are going on that just don't make sense. The ideologies behind it don't make sense. And I think they're going to drive people to the polls that have never gone to vote before.
Well, let me add this. Let me say this. I was telling somebody last week, Virginia, what we saw in Virginia was shocking to a lot of people. And yes, Virginia didn't allow Donald Trump to come into the state. And yes, Virginia now has a new governor, lieutenant governor who are Republican. And yes, people rejected Terry McAuliffe. But I also think what we saw in Virginia and New Jersey was people rejecting the White House, right?
Mm.
And so the apathy, the lack of results, the flip-flopping, the inconsistency, the stories about this dysfunction in the VP's office and wanting more of a larger role when historically VPs don't have a large role. The dysfunction of Biden paying people at the border, but don't want to have the conversation with Black folks around reparations. The issues with Biden not even wanting to talk about full student loan deletion for folks. We haven't heard conversations around legalizing marijuana as well. So I think as next year continues and inflation continues to go up, people don't want to stay on their jobs. We're still having the conversation around mask mandates and whatnot. I think the national apathy is going to trickle down into Texas and also make some voters make a decision that they normally don't, because people are just tired of the issues and the problems coming out of the White House. And so we're talking about a Democratic White House, and we're talking about the Democratic Party in Texas looking for wins. And I think that's really going to affect them next year.
Well, let me read some of these comments. Al Jackson says that some people will vote for Beto just to get Abbott out. Thunder says, and most Black folks are tired of the Dems and will sit out this one. Nothing for nothing leaves nothing. You got to have something if you want a vote for me. Curtis Chavez says, I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We are now Democrat across the board and had the strictest quarantine restrictions in the country. If Texas votes Beto, you'll regret it. Thunder says the Dems have lost their voter base, and that was the black vote, and the Dems are done. It's over for them. All they have left is fear mongering, and that will not work. And the carrot on the stick is over. That is a comment that I'm gonna tell y'all something. My man hit the nail on the head. I'm telling you, because of his affiliations with Joe Biden and the things that he believes in, the Democratic Party is going to lose a lot of African American votes because you just did not do right by African American people. And we know that, you might be a strong white guy. I love you. You might be a strong Latino brother, Asian brother. But black people put Biden in the White House. Black people put him in there, and he's abandoned them. We don't even want to talk about Miss Chucks and Pearls because I think she's a runaway slave at this point. We don't even want to talk about her. But I think that like you say, it's going to trickle down to Texas. And because, people will be scared that they'll have a Biden in the governor's mansion, they're not going to vote for him.
No, I don't see it happening. But let's talk. If you don't mind, let's talk about the Attorney General's race really quickly.
Okay.
Because I know you have some thoughts about Lee Merritt. So let me just say this about Lee Merritt, right? And I put a post up about this the other day. Lee Merritt is running on the Democratic side against Joe Jaworski. And on the Republican side, you got a whole bunch of them. George P. Bush, you got the guy that's currently in there, can't think his name right now, and whole host of other people. But I want to talk about Lee Merritt for a second here. And I like Lee Merritt, right? I know you don't particularly, but I like Lee Merritt. I think he's a smart brother. I met him at my church at Pamela Turner's funeral, okay? And Lee is sharp as a lawyer. He's sharp as a legal mind, right? I even respect him as a legal mind more than I respect Benjamin Crump. And when I saw that Lee was running for Attorney General, I was concerned. And why was I concerned? I said because running for a statewide Attorney General in this state to represent 30 million people is a tough job just to do the job. It's also tough to campaign across this state to 30 million people in 254 counties in a state where you've never run for office and you've never been on the ballot before. So I said, Lee got a lot going on. Lee is in Georgia. Lee is in Minnesota. Lee is in California. Lee is all over the place doing his legal thing and helping families, which is great. But if you want to be Attorney General in the state of Texas, at this point, now that you're a candidate, we need you to focus in the state of Texas. I know that you represent Ahmaud Arbery's family, right? And that's it, but that's in Georgia. That's not Texas, right? And so I think, and meanwhile, his opponent on the primary side is focused in this state. And so my thing is, one, I would love to see Lee get more focused on the issues in Texas, right? And and who knows how well he will fare, right? But I'm looking at this sharp black guy who could actually do a fair job. But I just don't know if you can win the trust and earn the trust of voters if they see you all over the country and all other states standing beside Al Sharpton and Ben Crump. So I just would like to see some adjustments from Lee to really get focused if he wants to win this race.
Well, my issue with Lee Merritt is simple. I've never really been a fan of his, even from the attorney side, with the things that they do. And they're satellite attorneys, him and Crump. They just show up for the fan the cameras and drum up the interest, and they make their money that way. But that has nothing to do with him running right now for me. I want to hear the man campaign from an even keel. What I mean by that, you can't scream racism, and yet the way that you're campaigning is like you're only campaigning for black people. You will be the Attorney General of all the people.
Yes.
You will be the Attorney General of all the people. And everything that comes out of his mouth, he's attacking his opponent, one of his opponents. What's my man named? Ken Paxton.
Right.
He's attacking Paxton, but from a racial standpoint. And that is not the way that you need to be if you're going to sit in office. You govern all the people.
Right.
And this is coming from a black man. I'm going to be honest. The first time I heard him do it, I was very offended. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? I don't care what you feel about a certain race of people. You still have to represent them. So white people should be afraid and scared that you may end up with an attorney general that might just screw you across the board, not because you did something wrong, but because of the color of your skin. See, we want it both ways when we black. We want to be able to scream and be the victim, but then we want to become the bully too. No, he can't. If he can't do that, I don't want to hear nothing he's talking about. And right now, after months and months and months of him campaigning, I've not heard anything different.
So you make a good point, and let me just say this: I've looked at, I look at Lee's, I follow him on Instagram, I see his tweets and things of that nature, and you cannot. I mean, the primary election is in March, right? So we're 4 months away from that. Mm-hmm. You cannot run a quality campaign for 4 months race baiting. You gotta talk about more than race baiting. I'm gonna be honest with you. People are tired of the race baiting, man. People are sick of the race baiting. We understand that there is racism in this country. We understand that the country was founded on racism. You and I both fight against racism
every day.
And kudos to you to what you did in KDISD today too. But we know there's racism, but we don't want to hear about racism every time you open your mouth. If you're running for attorney general, if you're running for governor, whatever you're running for, there are a plethora of diverse issues that we can talk about. Let's talk about joblessness, right? Let's talk about healthcare. Let's talk about securing the vote. If you want to say it's voter suppression, if you want to say voter intake, whatever you want to call it, right? There are so many other things to laser focus on instead of just race baiting every time you open your mouth. And I'm going to tell you, that's one of the reasons why we're going to see some meteoric results in this next election across the country. You know why? Because for the past 4 to 6 years, Democrats have just called every white person racist or called anybody that disagrees with them racist or a coon. And people are tired of being insulted just because they have a way of thinking that's different from you, because they think that to bring the community better, they think of it in a different way than you, or simply because they're white. Listen, Democrats have made it fashionable to call white people racist just because they are white, and that's wrong. That is wrong. People are tired of this race baiting. You look at Al Sharpton across the board. What has he been doing for the past 10 years? Race baiting. But guess what? What has changed? Nothing. Another black man, black woman will be shot and killed by the police next weekend. And Al Sharpton is going to preach the funeral for a fee, and then it's going to continue the next weekend. So where has race baiting gotten us in this country? So I think people are tired of hearing that. You got to run a race that's more diverse than talking about what so-called racist people have done to you. And we need to see more substance as you talk about the issues that are going to affect the office of Attorney General.
Man, you on fire tonight. I'm gonna give you an example. Like me, I'm running for state representative, House District 131. Yeah. That's predominantly a Democratic district, right?
Right.
But I have so many people, whether they're black, white, whatever, man, we're gonna vote for you no matter what the affiliation is, because you give a damn about the people. Man, do you know that how that makes me feel?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm on the lower level. I'm just trying to get my foot in the door. But you got a guy that's going for one of the highest offices in the state of Texas, but it looked like you only want to govern black people. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. It just does not work that way. And if anybody decides, okay, I'm gonna ride with him on that, you just as racist as him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. He's what he is. His conversation right now is one-sided. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And that's not going to get him in where he
let me
so I think he'll even have a problem getting out of the primary.
Let me let you in on this, brother. Let me let you. Well, I mean, there's two things. You even talk about that primary for a second there. Did Royce West make it out of the primary?
No.
No. So well, they went to a runoff. So how is it in a runoff that Royce West, who has been in office for 30 years, who has way more name ID than the young white lady MJ Heger, right? Who she had never been elected. How is it that she was able to beat Royce West in a runoff, statewide runoff, in the state of Texas, right? If there's so much diversity and support for black men in the Democratic Party, right? So how do you think Lee Merritt will fare race baiting in the Democratic Party in Texas? How do you think they're gonna choose him or Joe Jaworski, right?
I think they'll go with Jaworski. I really do.
But let me let you in on this. And so Jaworski and Lee Merritt did a debate maybe about 2 months ago. I forgot what organization hosted it. It was an online debate. I wasn't able to see it, but I asked several people about it. I asked about 5 or 10 people about, hey, how was it? What, how'd it go? And about 6 to 7 people said this to me. They said Jaworski did very well. He came to the conversation prepared. He could speak to all the issues out of the AG's office. He could answer all the questions very confidently. They said resoundingly, Lee Merritt was not prepared. They said Lee came with no notes and he just wanted to BS his way through the conversation, and it was clear and glaring that he was not prepared, and he did not do well, as I understand, in that debate. And even an elected official told me this, right? And so I didn't see, you didn't see it. So my thing is, Lee Merritt, there are a lot of there are several million black people, 3 million black people in this state that may want to vote for you. Give them the chance and say he's ready, he's prepared, he can talk about the issues in a diverse way. And right now, I'm just not seeing that, brother.
I'm not seeing it either, and I've been watching him, and it is what it is. And like you said, he's all over the country at this moment. He's in Kenosha, and he's down there in Wisconsin. He's dealing with what he's dealing with. But you have a race to run, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Are the people of Texas important to you?
Mm-hmm.
But the way I feel about him on the lawyer level, I didn't expect anything different from him. But his conversation is not diverse. It's centered around black people. And I understand we the least, the last, the lost. It is what it is. But when you're running for public office, you have to appeal to everybody.
Let me say this. Let me say this to your viewing and listening audience. And it's always great to be with you and to be with your wonderful audience. And I can't even see the comments, so I'm sure they got some good stuff down there. But like, we have to turn a corner, Monroe, in our politics in our country, right? And you and I stand tall for black people, but you and I stand tall for all people, anybody,
Yes.
Anybody that's being mistreated, anybody that's not treated fairly, anybody that's getting the poor end of the stick. You and I will fight tall for them, black, white, blue, red, young, old, what have you. And so we have to reject race baiting in our community. Like, we got to stop allowing these politicians to just race bait and blame the other side and call people racist as a way as to why they were not effective in bringing you results, right? Race baiting does nothing. They tried the race baiting with the trip to D.C. That did not work. You tried race baiting with the redistricting things. That did not work. Republicans still have the majority, right? But there are good people in this country, Americans and Texans, who go to work every day, work hard to make a living, put their kids through school, right? Go to church, praise their God, all that kind of stuff. And they don't want to enter into an open debate about how to make their community forward and be called racist just because they're white, or a coon just because they may think differently as a black person. That is not how we should have diverse and quality conversations in our politics. And that's why it's gotten so nasty and divided and divisive. So here we are, I mean, hell, I just filled up. It took me $68 to fill up a 4-cylinder Honda today, right? Gas is sky high. You got me? So we got more issues to be talking about than who's racist. Let me make this point. I'll shut up. I said this the other day on my page for black folk. Black folk, we need to wake the hell up. What do you mean, Damien? Why do we need to wake the hell up? Hispanics are strategizing politically around us and we have our eyes closed and our heads up our ass, right? Hispanics have more people per capita, but historically they haven't been voting. But here lately, they have woken up and they are really understanding what their political power can look like. Let's look around Harris County. The county judge, most powerful spot in the county, is Hispanic. Commissioner Garcia is Hispanic. You have a handful of Hispanic state legislators. Now you're seeing more Hispanic persons on school boards as well, and they're just trying to create another for this new precinct on the commissioner's court to bring a Hispanic woman there, right? So the balance of power is going to change really quickly. So black folks, we got to stop talking about who's racist, and we need to start figuring out who's going to bring us economic results in our community to make sure we can eliminate cancer clusters, to make sure that our schools are up to date and our kids aren't failing as well, and make sure that we can have jobs in our communities and have safe neighborhoods where we have lights and things of that nature, more affordable housing as well, more access to home ownership. Those are the things we need to be talking about. Who's most racist is not going to get us to the economic promised land.
I'm gonna say this, man, because you're right. If you side with white people or the Republicans, we're coons. I tell them, if you call me a coon, call me a raccoon. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. Hold on. Talk to the people for a second, man. Yeah, they want to call me a coon, and well, you know what I found? I had to get out there in a nonpartisan race, and I had to engage black, whites, Latinos, Asians, everybody.
Yeah.
And from a conservative side, I've never been treated like a weak black man. Oh, they're gonna use you. They're gonna use you. Ain't nobody finna use me. I think I've been used for the last 53 years. As a Democrat, I feel I've been used. But it's like you say, it's time for us to wake up, man, because we're being left behind and we're supporting a party of people who are not doing anything for us. Prime example, House District 131. What has this lady done? Hey, man, I mean, I love State Representative Symphonia Thompson just because she's Symphonia Thompson.
Yeah,
I see her put the work in. I seen Jarvis Johnson put the work in on the floor at the Capitol. You see what I'm saying? Not necessarily that I support him, but I love the fact that I see him working.
Sure.
What has my Democratic opponent done? Except do a big senior meeting every election year and give away turkeys. That's it. But look at our community, nothing's been done. So, I mean, it's a lot of different issues. Like me, I can talk the issues. And one of the issues that I would talk the most is the fact that when this lady ran initially, her biggest issue was the state rep at the time, Ron Wilson, had left the community behind and had done nothing for the community.
What year was that?
I can't remember the exact year, but she ran against Ron. But here's the problem. If that's the case, then you've done the same thing that Ron did. You've left your community behind. You've done nothing for your community. She's done nothing. So how long are we going to keep supporting a party who's basically using us? They're getting rich. They're lining their pockets. But yet we can't even afford to get a basketball court redone. We got to wait till Travis Scott comes through the building.
Let me just say this about House District 131, and I love Dr. Allen. I think she's a wonderful lady. She's always been very nice to me. I think she has her heart in the right place, and I think when she got into that role, she wanted to do the right things, and I think she has done what she felt has been the right thing over the time period that she's been in, maybe 10 to 15 years, right? But to be quite frank and honest, now Dr. Allen is a little bit over 80 years old. 81, 82, 83, somewhere along those lines.
82 years old.
82 years old, and I think she's done a phenomenal job representing House District 131. But I think I know now is the time that district needs more vibrant, more younger, more physically stronger leadership with newer, more modern ideas, right? Just like Joe Biden is in his 80s, there's no way that Joe Biden can actually know the pulse of modern America. And I don't think Dr. Alley, even with all the great staff surrounded by her, will actually know and have a real pulse of modern 131, right? She's just going to have blind spots. So I think it's time for somebody to have a equal shot, a fair shot to get in there and represent, because, hey, I've spoken to some folks in 131, and there's some people who called me and asked me to run in that particular race, to be honest with you, right? And I declined that offer. But I looked over the landscape and I talked to some folks, and there are some people unhappy. There's folks over at Madison are unhappy with what's happening over at the school. And so I think you would be a great representative. I think there's another young lady and another guy in the race as well. But I think 131 does deserve more younger leadership. And I think we got to be careful. I don't need to be careful. I think we got to stop electing people over the age of 70. I'm just going to be frank with you. If you're over 70, you probably shouldn't run for office, right? Because now we'll see folks that are in their 80s just hanging on. They'll probably die in office, and we don't want to see that. But I think 131 needs new leadership.
I think it needs new leadership. There's I think one of the hottest seats in the state of Texas is over there in Garnett Coleman's district. There are going to be some people running for that.
What names have you heard?
From what I've heard, I've not confirmed. Jolanda Jones should run for it.
Yeah,
that's her district. On the Republican side, there's a black Republican, and you know what? We really ain't touched on that. There are a lot of black Republicans running for office in 2022,
and they should.
And I'm gonna tell y'all something, man. You need to wake up and understand why we are leaving that party. Why we're leaving, why we've just said enough is enough, and we're going to do what we need to do. Now, here's the thing. Republican or Democrat, you can bank on one thing with Gary Monroe when I win. I'm going to do my job.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my job. And that's making sure that I take care of the people. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I get it with all these committees that you may be assigned to, and all that's great. But I just need to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do for the people. So I think that, and it's no disrespect to Alma Allen, God bless her, but I think it's past her time. There's not enough new ideas coming out of her head anymore. And the game that's being played, where I'm going to sit here long enough to where I run everybody off and then I leave and one of my kids just slide up in this seat, that ain't finna work. I'm finna beat you. I'm finna beat you.
Hey, you done had your ear to the street, huh?
There it is, man. I already know the game. And I think if anybody know anything about me at this point, you're going to have to go 4 quarters with me. You ain't going to just get it like that. Because I'm out working.
Hey,
I'm out working.
Let me switch gears, because I know we only got a few more minutes left. I was thinking about something, and this race for county judge. Let's talk about this race for county judge. And this is Lena's first time defending her title, if you will. Like, how do you think she's going to do, Lena Hidalgo?
I think if you get Kermit the Frog to run against her, she's going to get beat. And that's just my opinion. I mean, everybody knows that Hidalgo is Ellis's puppet. Everybody knows that. You need a county judge that can stand on their own merit.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And I just believe that if the right person runs, that she's going to have a problem and she's going to get beat. That's just the way that I feel.
So I was just telling somebody this last night. Listen, I eat, breathe, sleep politics. I'm talking about this stuff all the time because I love strategy. And I think Lena's going to have a very tough time being reelected. I'm not saying that she won't be reelected, but I'm telling you, if she does, it's going to be by a slim margin. She's going to have a very tough time, and here's several of the reasons why. One, she's still young. I think she's what, 29 now, 30, or what have you. And so I think a lot of people are still not comfortable with a 30-year-old running this county of 6, 7 million.
Let's just get something straight. She doesn't run the county. Rodney Ellis does.
Well, okay.
Okay, I'll say it for you.
So she's going to have a tough time because she's young, right? And I think a lot of people, a lot of older voters are not just going to trust her in that particular role. One. Two, she's very soft-spoken, and she hasn't found her own lane and niche to be her, as you mentioned, be her own person.
Exactly.
Does Rodney have great influence on her in her office? Absolutely. Most of her staff came from his office, so he does have his finger on that pulse at all times. And so I wouldn't call her a puppet, but I think she's strongly influenced by others, and so she hasn't found her own voice, you know. And so, as for folks of this county want a county judge that they can have their own mind, can make their own decisions, and stand tall in the difficult times as a leader and make the tough calls on their own, right? 3, I think that Astro World is really going to be the albatross around her neck for the next several months. I'll be honest with you. If I'm a strategist and I'm running against Lena,
I'm using it against her.
Listen, you got 10 people, 10, and it could be more, 10 people that are now deceased because of the negligence tied to this concert, which was sanctioned by the county. And she is judge, right? So you can't skirt any type of accountability on this, right? There are 10, 11 families right now that are going to be upset with the county. Now, the county is going to also have to fork out at least $500 to $1 billion to these families, right? And that's on the taxpayer dime, right? And so she's really going to have to answer for Astro World, because as Ted Oberg and Mario Diaz dig into it more and more every night, we're going to find out more details on how it goes back to the lack of checks and balances at the county, right? And so for those reasons and several more, I think Lena is going to have a tough time in the primary and also in the general, because right now there are 2 women on the Republican side that are going to be running against her, a Hispanic woman and a Black woman. So Lena is in for the fight of her life, and I can see a lot of Democratic voters in the general switching over and voting for that Black woman on the Republican side.
I think not only is Astroworld gonna doom her, but actual crime, the crime stats will doom her.
Oh, I forgot about the crime,
brother.
Stats
are gonna kill
I've gotten so used to it.
And you know, the failed bail reform with Ellis. I think that Garcia's in for the fight of his life. And I know that Cagle is in for the fight of his life.
Cagle definitely is.
Yeah, Cagle is in for the fight of his life. But if they lose either one of those seats, we back to where we was anyway. So, you know, I think that she just doesn't have enough experience. You see what I'm saying? To make some of the decisions that she's had to make, and then you get involved with your contractor friend with the contract for $11 million. Now you got Astroworld on top of it. You got the crime stats. I just don't see her making it. And matter of fact, I'm gonna call it. I don't think she's gonna make it out of the primary.
Do you think she's charismatic enough to talk her way through those issues? Now I'm gonna tell you something. Here's like Sylvester is so great at BSing his way and using charisma through difficult positions and positions that he has to take. And he's good at it. He know how to talk his way through stuff, right? Is she good enough to sit in the heat of the fire and take that and be able to talk her way through that and explain herself and still win people over, sitting at a table at a debate as she taking the heat as the county judge?
I don't think she can handle it. I don't think that she could even handle the war zone. I don't think that the tough questions she has answers for, because I gauge my vote on what you've done for your term. And when I look at her overall results, they are not there. They are just not there. And therefore, I don't think that she can handle a real live debate with somebody that's really just gonna go hard in the paint. I mean, like anybody that runs against me, I'd love to debate you because I'm gonna eat you for breakfast.
Right.
I'm gonna eat you for breakfast. I probably would come into the room if I was running against her with a shirt that said Texas Cyclone on it. Because I'm gonna torment you. Because
Right.
of your negligence, a lot of people ended up dead and a lot of people ended up hurt. You see what I'm saying? And like you say, it's going to cost the county billions. It's going to cost them tons of money behind this. But, if we understand how that works, October 24th, there was a concert that was supposed to happen at the NRG Arena, played by Cardi. That arena only holds 8,000 people. They breached the gate at the beginning and they immediately shut that venue down. Okay, but they breached the gate with Travis Scott and you don't shut it down. Man, these people still got grease on their palms, man.
I want to go back to this though. I want to go back to this as you bring that up, man, because this does not sit well with me. And you got to call it out when you see BS. And I would just want to hear a better explanation from the county judge as to why the threat level, the COVID threat level for the county, which was at red, was then conveniently moved to orange a couple days before the concert. So that means when this concert was sanctioned and paperwork was signed and permits were given, we were probably in the red. So
okay, but that's coming. If you get that from the county judge, then she would have a hard time explaining herself with me because you don't have a problem supporting people that want to keep kids masked up in the school system in your county, even though the threat level has been lowered. So I'm telling you, she wouldn't be able to answer your question.
I mean, I would love to know, because it just, I mean, if you cancel the rodeo, and I know your listening and viewing audience loves the rodeo, how big the rodeo is, and the rodeo was canceled in 2020 and 21, right? And I'm sure that was a joint decision between the city and the county. So if you cancel the rodeo, then what's the logic to host 50,000 people for a concert when the threat level was just read 2 days ago? Who was possibly paid to make the threat level go down? How much money has Travis Scott given to the city and county to get favorable results? Because I'm sure I know they didn't want 10 to 11 people to die. But when we also I'm looking at reports on CNN that the security company was hiring people through text message. These people one guy had never even been to a concert, let alone do security at a concert. So this falls on the checks and balances of the county. But if we were in the red level, right, I can see if we're talking about a gathering of a couple hundred people, we're seeing political events with people not wearing masks, cool, whatever, right? But 50,000 people, somebody has to answer to this. This is bigger than just send those families thoughts and prayers. This is bigger than just write a check, right? This is somebody dropped the ball big time at the county office, and the county judge needs to answer these questions to all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, possibly 11, 12 families, more than 200 people injured or more. Questions need to be answered. Who was possibly paid? Because this seems like more favorable interaction with Travis, and other groups not getting that same favoritism. I think this is going to be the albatross hanging around the county judge's neck as she moves into this very tough primary, brother.
Well, I tell you what, man, those are great points, because those are questions that I would want to ask. I'm talking about an arena that only held 8,000 people, and because of security concerns, you canceled that show. But these people breached the gate. When it first opens and you don't cancel that show, they did the exact same thing. It was just a larger venue. You see what I'm saying? But the permits are not in place. The security companies are just people that's off the streets. You get hired through a text message, but I guarantee you, Jill Biden came to town yesterday, right? That special response group from HPD Even though she had Secret Service, they were mobile. So where was that group that does large crowds, that does the special events? Where was that group that night? But I think it's gonna hit the fan because they're gonna sting them for a bunch of money. But if you keep throwing Travis under the bus, I think y'all gonna have a problem.
But let me say this: one, this is not Travis's fault in no way, shape, form, or fashion. Travis is the entertainer. Travis is under agreement and contract with Live Nation, the production company, and it is on Live Nation to hire all those other vendors, or on Harris County to hire vendors and security and all that kind of stuff. So this is not on Travis in no way whatsoever, right? He did what he was supposed to do. It's unfortunate, and he'll bounce back from it. But if you notice, if you paid attention, folks, if y'all paid attention to this, the city came out and shared the permits that they had given toward the concert. I don't know if y'all saw that. And if you know anything about the city and Mayor Turner, is that they are very slow to reveal documents and information that may be damning or that may hurt them. It can take years to months to weeks, right? But this time, that permit paperwork came out in days, right? So that just shows how fast they can produce stuff if they want to. But it came out in days, and pretty much Sylvester was saying, hey, we did what we were supposed to do. This is on the county. This ain't got nothing to do with us. So y'all can miss me with the criticism. And they said, hey, this is everything that we signed off and we gave permission to, but the rest is on the county. So even the city is saying, hey, Lena, Commissioner's Court, Harris County, this is on you. And let's see how it works out.
Yeah, and county judge had the final say so on that event. Right. It's really unfortunate that those people got hurt and a lot of people died and different things like that, because it never had to happen. And I really had to control my emotions when I found out that the 9-year-old died, because this did not have to happen. But as usual, things happen in this city, and the only thing that they're gonna tell you is we're sorry, and they move on. They move on like it ain't nothing. They don't care if they get sued because it ain't their money. It's taxpayers' money.
Right.
That will have to be paid. So I think everything that we just discussed is going to hurt her in the end. And I just don't, I'm honest, I don't really see her getting out of the primary. I might be wrong, but I think she's gonna have a hard time getting out of the primary. Give them your final thoughts, my friend.
Hey, yeah. This is my final thought, man. Appreciate being with you tonight. Appreciate being with your audience as well. Make sure you go check me out, Damon Jones Podcast. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But here's what I say to your educated, passionate, engaged audience is: don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? If you want leverage and power, political power for your community, you need to be Republicans, you need to be Democrats, and you need to be willing to change up as your interests change up to get what it is that's best for you. Don't be loyal to any party, because like I said before, Republicans freed the slaves and Dixiecrats hung black people. So therefore, you should be loyal to your interests and what's best to put food on your table. So continue to be an educated, passionate, and intense audience. And I really, really appreciate being with you, brother. I think you muted. Are you muted?
It's a reason I'm the best in the business, because it's the war zone every night, 7 o'clock, YouTube and Facebook. I want to thank my guest, Damian Thaddeus Jones, and I am the 5-star general. Until tomorrow, we'll talk to you.